Good afternoon. Today we are going to talk about some direct support basics. You'll receive a packet, and in that packet will be these documents. What I'd like you to do first is to read over the documents and to fill them out and return to me. Okay, so just to introduce you to our administration, first you have Kim Bolden. That's exactly where Bold came from. And we established the Bold in 2018, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Then we have our COO, which is Angie, and then we have myself, I'm the Chief Human Resource Officer, and then Becky, who's one of our directors, and then we also have another director starting within the next month or so. So in 2018, Kim and I worked together at an agency, and the best way I could say it is our values didn't exactly align with theirs. So she came to me and she said, Sam, let's open an agency. I said, Kim, you're absolutely nuts. We are not opening an agency. Eventually a little poking and prodding, and she said, just come along for the ride and we'll see where this leads us. So I think that we've surpassed at least my expectations. I think Kim always knew that it was going to be something great and it was going to be something big. And I was, of course, a little doubtful, and I definitely was a lot more hesitant, but she kept on pushing. Then she also said, hey, I have this friend, Angie, we work together somewhere else, and I think she'd be a really good partner. So let's bring Angie on board. So the three of us got together, we started creating policies, and we started kind of deciding what it is that Bold was going to mean to us. So the first thing is Kim and I decided, we sat together and we talked about what would be what does Bold stand for? So what we came up with was better outcomes living diversely. We felt that that was in line with what we wanted to do. So what we wound up doing is talking about what it is that was going to make us stand out from other agencies. The first thing being is that we wanted to continue to do direct care ourselves, even if it's a small amount of direct care, just keep ourselves grounded. Additionally, we also didn't want to get too top heavy. We didn't want to have too many administrators and not enough direct care. We felt like, sometimes agencies get so top heavy that the direct care staff don't receive as much funding and things like that in order to do their job, because you're paying these high salaries on the top. So we decided that that's going to be something we're going to be extremely mindful of. Additionally, we knew that we were going to do respite care. So what respite care is it's temporary care for adults who have intellectual disabilities. So let's say mom and dad have their adult son and they just want to go away on vacation. They'll call us, they'll set up a respite, and their son will come to us for a week, a few weeks, generally less than 30 days. So that's our first respite kind of placement. So the other thing that we do in respite is kind of take people for assessment. So in transition, so you'll have somebody who is transitioning from, let's say, from foster care into, the adult realm of IDD, and there is no plan for them. So are they going to a group home? Are they going to live independently or going to life sharing? So what we would do is an assessment, and we would determine what the next best step would be for them. So then we would make a recommendation. And if it's in the community, then we would potentially try to support them in the community through our supported living. If it's a residential, depending on their needs, we might open a residential facility for them. Or a residential home, I guess you'd say. It really does depend on the circumstances. So that's respite care. Then so it's temporary care. Then we have at this time we have one residential home, and it was just a unique situation. It was not exactly one of the things that we thought we'd get into when we started Bold. However, we have, and it's been quite successful. So we'll see where that leads us. Then it's all the same regulations in regards to respite, in regards to residential. So there really isn't too much of a difference. And then we also have supported living, which is when the people that we support live out in the community and we go in and we help them with daily needs. For example, taking them to doctor's appointments, making sure their medications are filled, helping them with getting to their jobs, different activities like Special Olympics. Some people go to bingo and different activities. And then additionally, the other service that we also provide is life sharing, which is essentially like adult foster care. And it's basically when a family member, a close family friend, or an old staff are interested in taking the person into their home and supporting them in their home. And then we provide services to that family in order to ensure that that situation works out well. Okay, what is an intellectual disability? Generally, somebody who's diagnosed with an intellectual disability are under the age of 18. Once in a blue moon, you do find somebody that's been diagnosed much later in life, but that's very odd. So anybody that we support typically does have an intellectual disability. That's where we get our funding through. So everybody we support does have an intellectual disability. Some do have dual diagnosis and have mental health issues or things like that, but their primary diagnosis is an intellectual disability. When people have intellectual disabilities, they have limitations with intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. We're going to get into that a little bit more here. Intellectual functioning. So obviously it affects their learning, their reasoning skills, their problem solving skills. And then our job is to help them coexist with the strengths that they do have in society, in the community. Conceptual skills. First would be language and literacy. Of course, a lot of people that we support have difficulties with literacy and language skills. What we do is we can work with them on those skills and try to help develop some of that. And some of it is through just communication, for example, a PEC board. We do utilize those systems with some of the people that we support. Sometimes we utilize simple signing. And sometimes we help with other forms of communication through a communication team. Money management, time, and numbers is also a conceptual skill that the people that we support typically struggle with. And it is also something that we do assist with helping them learn. Self-direction. This is a very big thing for, I would say, all of the people that we support, in the sense that, like we have one young lady that if you let her, if she was, her perfect day would be to sit on the couch and watch country music all day. And that's all she would do all day. So she needs some staff to come in to kind of motivate her, like, hey, okay, I know that you want to listen to country music. How about we play the country music? And we do that while we are doing laundry and assisting her with doing daily living skills. So she can't necessarily make those decisions, or doesn't like to make those decisions on her own. So sometimes she needs staff to help encourage her to move forward with her day and to do some things that are a little more productive. So they are looking at staff in order to receive that guidance and that direction for the day. Social skills. Interpersonal skills. A lot of the people that we support do struggle with interpersonal skills. Creating friends, making friends. Social responsibility is also another big thing. For example, you find a wallet, to try to find the owner or to bring it to a police station, and they wouldn't necessarily have the ability to know what to do if something like that happens. Self-esteem is a very big issue for some of the people that we support. And I think that one of the things that I see a lot is the need to develop relationships and bonds, and the desire to be in a quote unquote normal relationship is definitely something that you see across the board with a lot of the people that we support. ability to follow rules. Again, we have a gentleman who goes into the streets of Harrisburg and feels like he's helping the safety of the people and directing traffic. He has been hit by a vehicle. This is obviously a dangerous behavior. We've met with the police with him. We've done several different interventions in order to try to stop this behavior and to help him understand that these are against the rules of the of the road, I guess you'd say. Gullibility is, of course, another situation. Avoiding victimization. Victimization is a very big issue for the people that we support, in that, for example, we have a lot of the places where the people that we support live are low-income housing. However, what happens is there's a mix of people with intellectual disabilities and people with mental health issues. So what happens there is sometimes the people with mental health issues will victimize the people that have the intellectual disabilities. So that is something that we deal with regularly, and we try to set some interventions in place and teach self-advocacy in order to try to help the people that we support. Problem solving, again, that's something that that a lot of the people that we support look at us to help them come up with ideas and situations in order to problem solve. Practical skills, daily living activities. These are things that we help them with all the time. Getting their medications filled, going to day programs, getting to work, doing your laundry, cooking, cleaning. These are all things that we would help with. Occupational skills. We don't do a whole lot of occupational stuff. The majority of the people that we support do have services that specifically address occupational skills. Healthcare, we do help them with filling out their applications or their renewals for healthcare. We assist them with getting their medications, going to doctor's appointments, making sure that the follow-ups that they need for their doctor's appointments are set up. So it is important as a direct support staff that you make sure that when you're taking somebody to a doctor's appointment, that you get all of the information and that you relay that information to the coordinators so that they can make sure that the proper medical needs are being met for the person. Transporting, that's a very big part of what we do. And we'll get into mileage and all of that shortly. But in regards to transporting, we transport people to their doctor's appointments, to sports, to different activities. And we do have agency vehicles that you can use, and we have vehicle schedules. So we'll get into that a little bit more. Cleaning, we assist people with cleaning their homes, their different spaces that they have. This is something where, it really varies the capabilities of the people that we support, whether or not they're capable of doing the core cleaning, or is it that, you're going to say, well, I'll wash the dishes. Can you please, dry them while I'm washing them, and things like that, and helping them put it away and things. Ultimately, it is our responsibility to clean if they're not able to do the full task. Meals and food, I would say 99% of the people that we support do need our assistance with meals, not feeding them per se, but with helping them create meals. Sometimes in the community, that would be creating a crock pot meal. That could be at the houses, coming up with a menu, and then maybe asking them to hand you the items. Can you hand me the lettuce out of the refrigerator? And some people have no interest whatsoever in helping prepare meals. Either way, we have to prepare meals. We do eat family style. We do expect that staff sit down at the table and eat with the people that we support. You are welcome to bring your own food if you're on a special diet or you have restrictions or things like that, or allergies. However, we do prefer for people to eat together in a family style. What should I do before my shift? So I'll be sharing a site with you. It's called Band, and it's kind of like a Facebook, but it's very specific to our agency, and only people that work at the agency have access to this. And in there, what you're going to do is we have, and we'll have a video that explains it in detail, but you're gonna look before your shift and see if there's anybody new to respite. If you look on the schedule, you'll see in each house there's initials. So there are people that are at the houses and they've been at the houses for a few months. So you'll see an initial, like for example, MR, she's been in the one house for quite some time. So you'll always kind of see her initial there until she leaves, but you might see another initial there. If you see another initial there, that should prompt you to say, hey, I need to look at the ISP for the person that's going to be there. If you do not see that posted to band, what you should be doing is reaching out to the coordinators and asking them who's going to be at the house and where you can find the ISP for that person. Typically, what they'll do after that is they'll tag you in a band post so that you can find it and sign off on it and read it and review it. It's important that you read the ISPs and BSPs before you go on shift, because what they're going to do is they're going to show you things like, is the person safe in water? Can they shower themselves? Do they need assistance with food? Do you have to blend their food? Do you have to chop their food? Do you have to give them small amounts of food at a time in order to make sure they're not choking? So it's going to tell you some of these basic things in the proper care of the person that you're supporting. And as you know, people that we support, range from full care to needing us to help them in the bathroom to, completely independent. And so it's really important that you read these things in the ISP. Now, the BSP is a behavior support plan, and that will outline any type of behavior concerns the person has and how you should be handling that. So that's a very good tool for you. And it's important that you also read that before you work with anybody. In the community, we also suggest that you check band and also their houses, because the people in the community typically have a schedule in their home with activities of things they should be doing. Again, going back to the self-direction. If they lack that self-direction, you're going to look at that schedule and say, hey, I know that you would like to sit on the couch and watch country music, but this says that today's a laundry day. So let's get your laundry done, and then we can sit on the couch and watch country music and we can dance and we can have a great time, but let's get the task that you're supposed to get done today done. So that's what you would do in the community. And also checking the availability of the vehicles before you start your schedule. If you are scheduled for a vehicle, then you're expected to use that vehicle during your shift. You cannot claim mileage if you're assigned a vehicle for your shift. What do I do when I start my shift? So if you're in a respite house, when you start the shift, you want to say hello to everybody. Introduce yourself. If you don't know them, then introduce yourself, tell them who you are, let them know that you're going to be working. Check in with the staff you're relieving for important information. It could be something as simple as I always use hydration as a big checking point, where you might want to say, hey, it's a hot day. Did he have a lot to drink? Should I be pushing fluids today? Dehydration is a very big concern with the people that we support, especially because you have different staff coming in and out. So what happens is the people we support tend to get dehydrated and have some issues in regards to hydration and things like that, which could become extremely serious. Take a look at the meds to see when and who needs meds during your shift. So if you're not med trained yet, and we'll get into that a little bit more, but if you're not med trained yet, you are still responsible for making sure the meds are given during your shift. You would not be giving them yourself, but what you should be doing is checking in with the coordinator and saying, hey, I noticed that so-and-so has a new med. Is there somebody coming today to give these meds? So just checking to make sure that somebody is coming to give the meds and discussing that with the house coordinator. Checking to see if meats are thawed. And I know this seems so simple, but if you don't thaw the meats, then you may not have anything to cook for dinner. So that could be an issue later on in the day or for the next staff. What are some things I should be doing during my shift? Each house has a to-do list, and you should be working on that during your shift. Most to-do lists are on the refrigerator. So typically you'll find the to-do list on the refrigerator. So you'll work on that. Make a meal. 90% of the shifts that you work is going to be during a time where a meal should be given. assist with personal care, brushing teeth, bathing, changing clothes for the night. Some people need more physical assistance than others. This again is going to be in the ISP. So this is another reason why it's important to make sure that you read the ISP. Some people simply need verbal prompts. For example, it could be just being in the bathroom with them and saying, okay, let's wash your hair now, make sure you scrub it, clean your private parts, and just prompting them through things. And some people need physical assistance. Assist residents with laundry. Again, this is a task that, of course, if you've ever had any young kids, you'll know it's important to make sure that they're not, that they're using washers and dryers properly and not overstuffing and things like that. So assisting with that, and it may be something as simple as, can you hand me those clothes, and having them hand you clothes. Also with laundry, it is also important that you make sure that after every time you use the dryer that you are cleaning out the lint. This is actually something the state checks on when we have licensing. It's a strange thing to think that they check, but they do. Assist with other basic needs, and that could be anything. That could be eating, that could be driving them to appointments and things like that. Another thing I'd like to just mention when we're talking about making a meal, it is also important that we look at expiration dates when we're working in the houses. So you want to make sure that you're labeling food. There's tape in all of the houses with a Sharpie marker. If you put something in a container, you want to make sure that you're labeling that container with the date. Anything that's over 3 days old would have to be thrown out. Additionally, any expiration dates, that food needs to be either used prior to its expiration date or thrown out after that expiration date. Things not to do. Do not speak about other people, staff, or people that you support. It is really important, one, just for people to be happy at work. I mean, you come to work and don't you want to have a good day and not have drama and things like that? I think that we can all agree that that's something that we would all prefer. But in regards to the people that we support, I think it's important for people to understand that even if somebody that you support is not able to communicate 90% of the time, they know what you're saying. So it's important not to talk about them in front of them. Additionally, it's also important for you to kind of keep your personal life personal. There are people who we support who love to gossip, and they will talk about your family and they will tell everybody your business. And I would assume that that's probably not something you really want to have happen while you're at work. Additionally, we also have people who will simply, let's say you have a sprained ankle and, you're complaining about it while you're on shift, or a migraine and you're complaining about it while you're on shift. The next day, these people are going to have a headache. They're going to have a migraine. They're not going to be able to go to services because they're not feeling good. And they do take on those types of things that you guys have. So it's important to realize that you are influencing the people that you support in almost everything that you say. Don't use your cell phone for non-work related things. I see this in the sense of to be mindful of the fact that your job is to be supporting somebody, not to be sitting on your phone. So I'm talking about sending excessive text messages, or watching YouTube videos, or things like, or watching TV at all, really, like on your cell phone and stuff like that. Doing classwork on your cell phone, things like that shouldn't be done. I do understand that there are family emergencies and people have situations, mom might be sick or things like that. And what I ask is that you politely tell the person, hey, listen, I do have to take this phone call. It'll be super quick. Do you mind if I take it? And just be respectful if it is an emergency situation. I mean, people have kids and schools call and things like that. So that's understandable, but it's important for you to be very cautious about how often you're doing that. Don't use ear pods. There's zero reason for anybody to need ear pods while they're working. So that's pretty simple. Don't work on trainings while you were supposed to be doing direct care. So I say while you're supposed to be doing direct care because let's say you're on an overnight shift and you have trainings to do. You can certainly do trainings while you're on an overnight shift. Additionally, if you're working with somebody who is, for example, we have a gentleman right now who really likes video games. So he has tasks that he needs to get done, and then he typically will go in his room and play video games. If he's the only person in the house, after engaging with him, after completing the task, and if he's got downtime and he's not doing anything and you've completed the tasks in the house on the list, like, changing the trash and doing the dishes and putting the dishes away and things like that, then yeah, certainly going on the work computer and doing some trainings for work is acceptable. Don't smoke when the house gets to have visitors. This is just out of respect. It's just rude. Then we'll get a little bit further into smoking rules and things like that. What do I do at the end of my shift? Make sure the dishes are done and the house is clean. And a big thing is, especially if you're on overnight shift, when you're on overnight shift there, when you wake up in the morning and the new staff comes in the morning, the dishwasher should be emptied. There's plenty of time in the evening. The overnight staff is really expected to do the bulk of the cleaning in the house. And I understand waiting till the morning in order to vacuum or something like that, but you can certainly mop the floors and empty trash bags and things like that, during your shift. Writing in the communication book, every house has a communication book. The things that we're looking for you to write in the communication book would be things like, so-and-so didn't take a shower today, so make sure you talk to them about that. I called the landlord about the light in the living room. He's going to come fix it because we can't reach it. Those types of things. So-and-so's mom's coming for a visit today at 2:00. Make sure that they're ready, things like that. Speaking with the relief staff to let them know how things went during your shift and telling them important information. Again, it's very similar to the communication book, but you're just being polite. Complete your service notes for that shift. One should be done for each shift and each person in the house. So if there are 2 people in the house and there's 2 staff, what you would do is communicate with the other staff and say, hey, listen, I'll do it on this. I'll do my notes on this person. If you do the notes on that person, you have 15 minutes at the end of your shift in order to do notes. What my suggestion would be is to take that 15 minutes. You will get paid during that time and do your notes immediately, because that is tied to funding. And also it's very hard to remember what you did while you were on your shift if you don't do it immediately after. Additionally, some people actually take some notes during their shift to remind themselves of what they want to put on the notes. I do it often when I'm on shift just because it just makes life easier, and then your note goes by super quick. What activities can I do with people while I'm supporting them? We have a Wii, so in most of the houses, you can play Wii, you can do arts and crafts. If there's ever any arts and crafts that you wish to have, you can certainly have, just let us know, and we would be happy to buy whatever it is that you guys need. Go out to the community and see a movie, shopping, walks. Mechanicsburg Pool, we have an arrangement with them. We just have to talk to the coordinators in regards to setting that all up with the pool, where the people that we could support go for free. Community activities. There were Friday night dances and art dances before COVID, so I'm hoping those get back going. With these types of things, you can also create activities and do fun activities with somebody. For example, one of the staff did every Thursday, she and one of the people that we support would get together, and they would, on Wednesday, they would plan something, go out, go food shopping, buy the ingredients, and then the young lady would bake something every Thursday. And I'm talking some really good stuff. Like they made a cherry pie where she made homemade crust and she laced it on top. It was beautiful. She's done some really, really nice things. And if that's something that the people that you support are enjoying, then certainly feel free to do that. If you want to do a trip with somebody, let's say you're really into WWE and and it's their birthday coming up and you think that they would enjoy that, we can work on planning that with their team. So these are things that we can do with the people that we support. No one says that you have to sit in the house. We would prefer you get out, you do things, and you experience life, right? That's one of the best things about supporting people, is you get to do fun things. The other thing is when you're going on an outing with people, make sure you take enough money just for that specific outing. The best example I can give is that we had a young lady who had $200 and she had it in a Ziploc bag and she was going to the movies. She grabbed the Ziploc bag, went to the movies, paid for the movie, and then put it in another plastic bag, and the plastic bag got thrown out. And now she's out all of that money, where realistically for a movie, the most you're gonna need is $40. So just take what you need. Don't go overboard with that. Let's see. Agency documents. We're going to review some of these things. Timesheet. There's going to be a separate video for you for timesheet. Documents involving funds, consent packet, fire safety, fire drills, jot forms, and accurate service notes. There is a video on it's what you need to know, which is a form that I'll give you guys a copy of, and I'm also going to send the video to you. It doesn't work in this PowerPoint when I'm recording it. Looks a little bit like that. Okay, so we're going to go to fire drills and fire safety plans. So this is the fire drill record, and the fire drill form is basically, and the house manager will go over this with you if you're in one of the houses and it's time to do a fire drill. So I wouldn't worry too much in regards to that. So it's basically, you're just going to document where the person is during the fire, where the fire was. And again, these are drills. The important thing to know with fire drills is that anytime somebody new comes to respite, a fire drill needs to be done. But the most important thing is that the person, let's say we have somebody that's been there for 2 months and we have somebody that comes, we have somebody that's coming and they're there for the weekend, and then the following weekend somebody's there. And you're going to be doing multiple fire drills throughout the month. It's important for the person that resides in the house to understand that they must leave the house every single time there's a fire drill. Because, for example, if you say to them, oh, this is just a drill, you don't have to leave, you can stay in your room, I'm doing it for so-and-so that's only coming for the weekend. Well, that sounds all great, but the problem is that when there's actually a fire, then it gives them question as to, was this really a fire or is this not a fire? Is this one of those fires I don't have to get out? And then it creates a safety concern. So every single time you burn toast, everybody needs to leave the house for the fire drill. Anytime the fire alarm goes out, people need to leave the house so that there is no confusion. There's also a fire safety training plan. That's also something that a coordinator will review with you if you need to work on that, if you need to have somebody fill that out. But typically, that's something that you would have filled out, that the coordinator would have filled out or review with you if they want you to do that. General consent packet. All the people that we support have to fill out a general consent packet. In the general consent packet is our mission and our philosophy, consent for release of forms, consent for emergency medical treatment, routine medical, dental, things like that. One of the biggest things that is important for us is consent to photograph. And it's okay if the person chooses not to be photographed, but it's important that if they don't want to be photographed, that when you take a picture, you let us know that they prefer not to be on Facebook. Typically, I do the Facebook for the agency. So typically, if it's somebody new and I don't know them, I do ask, are they okay with being on Facebook and things like that. So, and if somebody has a guardian, their guardian will fill out this consent packet. Again, this is part of the initial paperwork. And again, this is something that typically the coordinator does. I just like for you guys to have a general understanding that these are some things that get done before the person comes to us. Basic medical forms. Again, this is something that's going to be reviewed more in depth when you do med training. And we're going to kind of talk about how that's going to work in a little bit. After you're med trained, you will be taught how to fill out a MAR. That's what we refer to. And a MAR basically has all of their medications, the list of the days of the week, and it'll outline when the meds are given, and then you'll initial it. And again, this is something that you're going to learn when you do med training. Self-administration, we do have a self-administration form, and the purpose of the self-administration form is really just so that we know if the person did actually take their medications if they self-administer their own meds. And it's really just to keep track of that. So it's really simple. You put the date, the time, any concerns with giving the medications, and then you initial it. And that's all. It's really just a tracking form. Appointment verification form. So whenever anybody goes to an appointment, or if you're taking them to an appointment, again, this is something the coordinator will review with you in depth. You want to make sure that you grab the appointment verification form. Now, if you're working in the community, you wouldn't have an appointment verification form. What you would be doing is making sure you get the visit summary and giving that to the coordinators, and then making any notes that of anything that was discussed that isn't in that form. On the appointment verification form, the biggest thing is to make sure that there aren't any blanks. So it's your responsibility to make sure that that's all filled out properly. And again, this is something the coordinator will review with you. There is a video regarding service notes. Again, I can't really show it when I'm recording this, so I'll be sending this to you separately to watch. It is important that you read it. That you watch it thoroughly. And the biggest thing to take away from this is that we need detailed notes. Morgan works very hard on reviewing the notes, and it's important that you guys are writing details, that you're leaving your opinion out of them, and that you're giving us a clear picture of what it is that you did during your shift. And this isn't just to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the people that we support. It's also to see any consistencies in their behavior, inconsistencies in their behavior. Additionally, their supports coordinator will also look at these types of things, and licensing can look at them as well. So we want to, and this can also save you a lot of time in regards to any allegations or anything like that. There's been plenty of times where things have been said, and then we go back in notes, and because you can't go back and change them, then it proves that, let's say somebody said, Sally didn't feed me during my shift, and you put in your notes that, John ate really well. He had mashed potatoes and gravy, and he seemed to enjoy it. And you can't go back and change that. And that's pretty specific. So that would really help in that type of situation. So I do urge you to please watch this video in regards to service notes. Policy review. These are some of the policies that we are going to review today. Okay, policy review. Sign off and receipt of policy. So you in your packet, in that packet that you have, there is a bunch of policies, and I want you to review them and sign off on them. If it does not have a signature, you'll just initial the bottom page. Confidentiality, respecting people's privacy, and making sure that people are on a need-to-know basis. For example, you go to the doctor's office and the secretary is asking you all these different things in regards to somebody's disabilities or family situation or things like that, and it really doesn't pertain to that doctor's appointment, or it's not really necessary for her to know that information in order to care for the person. And I think the biggest struggle really with this is when somebody's having a behavior and you're in public, and it can be embarrassing, and you definitely sometimes want to say, oh, they have a disability, like, please, understand. And it's not really appropriate to do that. The other important thing is to understand that if you're no longer working for BOLD, you are still bound to confidentiality, and you shouldn't be sharing information about the people you support. On-call. So on-call is utilized from regular hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is our agency number. This is the main number. This number will get you it'll get you connected to the houses, to the office, to anybody at the office. This is our main number. And after 5 p.m., you're also going to call this number, or holidays or weekends. You'll still call the main number, but it'll go to on-call, and the on-call worker will answer. Please give us 15 minutes to answer the phone. It doesn't typically take that long, but we shower when we're on call and do things like that. So it's important that you give us the opportunity to answer the phone call and continue to call back if you don't get a call back. And the other most important thing, that if you take nothing away from this training, is when in doubt, call 911. If you feel the safety of anybody that you support is a concern, then we want you to call 911 no matter what. You will never get in trouble for calling 911. We had a gentleman that we worked with, and he had varicose veins. And his first night with us, one of them ruptured, and it was like a bloodbath. There was so much blood. It was scary. The staff called 911, perfectly acceptable, not a problem. We followed up with the doctor, and he said, "Oh, it's okay. You know, this is going to happen. And it does appear to be a lot of blood. However, you know, you just apply pressure. And if it doesn't stop after a half hour, take him to the emergency room." So a few weeks later, you know, time passes and it happens again. And the staff called 911, and she then like called me and was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to call 911. You know, I feel really bad. It just was a lot of blood and I wasn't sure." And I said, "Absolutely not. You know, not a lot of blood is pretty relative speaking." And if she was uncomfortable and she felt the need to call 911, I'm okay with that. I would rather the people that we support be safe than for you to, than for you to have a problem because you didn't call 911. Always call 911 if you feel that you need to. Additionally, I always say this too when it comes to fire. You're not a firefighter. I don't expect you to fight a fire. What I expect you to do is get the people that you support out. Make sure you're safe, make sure they're safe, and call 911 and let the fire company deal with the fire. You're not a firefighter. We can replace a house, we cannot replace people. So that is important for people to understand. This is the attendance policy. Again, this is something that I will have you review independently. The big thing for you to understand is that that you are expected to give notice when you are taking PTO, 3 weeks notice. Within your first 90 days, you are considered on probation, so you don't have any PTO. If you're part-time, you don't have PTO until after a year, but we'll kind of talk a little bit about that. So this attendance policy, I am going to be sending you a separate link to review. Paid time off. For your first 90 days of employment, you're on probation and you're considered part-time, even if you are full-time. However, with that being said, people ask, "Oh, how much is, what's part-time?" I'm like, 40 hours. So it's typical for people who are hired as full-time to get full-time hours. We just like to have a little wiggle room just to figure out your schedule and make sure it works and everything. We also ask that you not change your availability in that first 90 days. The best example I can give for that is I hire somebody, let's say for second shift, and then after 3 days, they tell me they need first shift. Well, I don't have first shift open for you. So that becomes an issue. So we say that you give us an availability when you start, and that's going to be your availability, at least for the first 90 days. There are sometimes exceptions to that when it comes to if you gave us part-time availability, and let's say your second shift and you gave us part-time availability and you say, "Well, I'd also like to do, I see you guys have an open shift on Thursdays for an overnight. I'd like to do that overnight." That's certainly something that we typically won't have an issue with. So if it works in our benefit and you're asking for more hours, then certainly that usually works fine for us. After 90 days, you're eligible for health benefits as well as death benefits. If you're full-time, you're eligible for health benefits. If you're part-time, you are eligible for death benefits through the agency. You'll receive, if you're part-time, you receive 3 hours of PTO after your first year. So that's pretty cool. I'm sorry. If you're full-time, you receive 3 hours of PTO per pay week. So every 2 weeks, you receive 3 hours, and then which equals to 2 weeks. And part-time are eligible for three days of PTO after their first year. So this is kind of how it's broken down. Length of service. Basically, the first 3 years is 2 weeks. Then it goes to 3 weeks, a little over that, and then it goes to 4 weeks. So that's basically individual funds and daily spending and money. If not financially independent, per their ISP, they have money available to them in the home. Some people that respite with us will have an envelope that is in their file all the time and typically has some money for them to spend. And when they're just in respite, it's a lot more casual if they haven't been there for 30 days. It could be, mom sends an envelope and you're just going to put the receipts in that envelope, and that's all the tracking you have to do. If the person's there long term and they've been there for over 30 days, you'll see they'll have more of a balance sheet that you're going to have to keep. And you'll see because it'll be in their book. Money will be locked when it's not in use. And this is typically all money in the house. There are people that have money in their wallets and things like that. And that's certainly okay because we really don't encourage people to be in each other's rooms and things like that. The amount of money each individual is allowed to have is documented in their petty cash record. Receipts should be obtained for all purchases and kept in their books. When the receipts cannot be obtained, you can use a handwritten receipt and have the person sign it. For example, you have a friend that does braids and you take a young lady to get her hair done, and she does it out of her house or she comes over to the house to do it. You're still paying somebody for that service. So what you're going to do is do a handwritten receipt and have them sign it. And that's perfectly acceptable. Or if they're refusing to get a receipt, you can also do that as well. Some people are allowed to have a certain amount of money on their person, and that amount is going to be in their ISP, and you do not have to get receipts for that money. For every purchase or deposit, each transaction will be documented on a separate line of the petty cash record, and I'll kind of explain the petty cash record to you in a little bit. And the respite coordinators can also explain the petty cash to you as well. The amount of cash in the petty cash record should always match. And if for some reason the total does not match, what you want to do is let the coordinator know immediately so that they can figure that out, or the program specialist. Important use of personal funds. The personal funds shall not be used to pay for basic household supplies that are provided. So for example, paper towels, cleaning supplies, things like that. This specifically applies to respite. If people live in the community, then typically they are responsible for buying their own supplies, but you'll kind of be made aware of what their circumstances are when you're working with them. General medical and dental services, typically they do not have to pay anything for those. So if you go somewhere and you're taking somebody to an appointment, I would definitely suggest that if somebody says that, oh, it's going to be $500 or it's going to be this, that you call the agency before the procedure is done and say, listen, I don't know what's going on. They're saying they're going to charge this person, and that's not typical. So that's going to be something that you're going to want to make sure that you keep an eye on. Cost of supporters expenses for outings prior consent of the individual, family, or the guardian. So for example, you guys are going to go out to dinner. You should be paying for yourself separately, and they should be paying for themselves separately. And in the timesheet training, you'll kind of understand a little bit more about how the things are separated. We do have a certain meal reimbursement for staff and things like that. So that's certainly something we'll take care of, but you shouldn't be commingling the funds. Purchase of any other goods or services that do not directly benefit the individual. For example, you want to get an iPad. They can't buy you an iPad. The other thing is borrowing money amongst each other. We'll get into that in a minute. So commingling of funds for individuals' funds. Basically, this is saying that you shouldn't be splitting things. So for example, you go to McDonald's and it's 2 for 1. What you would do then is you would say, hey, you know what? This sandwich is 2 for 1. Why don't we get the 2 for 1? And then you can put one in the refrigerator and you can have it tomorrow for breakfast. Otherwise, you really can't be doing the 2 for 1 and splitting it with the person. There may not be borrowing of individuals' personal funds by family members of the agency. If it's a problem with family members, that's probably been the biggest issue that we've had is, mom is low on funds. So she comes over and she takes John's money. So when that type of thing happens, what you want to do is let the program specialist know or the coordinator of the house know, so that this can be something that's addressed with mom and we can ensure that that doesn't continue to happen. Drug and alcohol procedures and dress code. We do drug test for reasonable suspicion upon workers' comp issues. So if somebody gets hurt at work, they will be going for a drug test. Upon car accident, obviously, if somebody gets in a car accident, that's something that we do drug tests for. Dressing appropriately. So typically people are pretty good. We don't usually have an issue with this. We always ask that people dress appropriately, but I'm going to say this is that if you're working an overnight shift, then certainly wear, stretchy pants or wear sweatpants and a sweatshirt. That's perfectly acceptable behavior for overnight shifts. We just want you to be in appropriate, clean clothing because you are representing the agency. Wear closed-toed shoes when working with someone who has limitations with their with walking and things like that. So if you're going to be using a wheelchair, of course, you want to be dressed appropriately and make sure that you have, that you have closed-toed shoes on so that you're not hurting yourself or anything like that. Minimal holes in pants. If it was up to me, I would say no holes in people's pants, but I know that a lot of people, that's a trend now. So, be cautious of how big the holes are and how revealing the holes are and things like that. Dresses should not be revealing. DSP work isn't exactly the best work to be wearing a dress in the first place. So just be cautious of that. And just to touch a little bit on the shoe thing, it's important for you to, again, read ISPs. We do have several people that we support who do have foot fetishes and things like that. So we had a young man who we always made sure that we were wearing closed-toed shoes and things like that because it was interesting, to say the least. Communication and cell phone use. I said we were going to circle back to this. Don't use your cell phones while on shift except for emergencies. We talked about that. Never use your cell phone while you're driving. If you must, or if you need to look at directions or something like that, what I ask of you is to pull over in a safe spot. Don't record trainings or phone calls without people's consent. That again is a big important thing to make sure that you have somebody's consent in order to do that. Sometimes we do record trainings and things like that, but we will give you permission. We'll let you know. And if you don't want to participate because it's being recorded, then certainly let us know and you can watch the recording. Anti-bullying, threatening people you support, or treat people like you support and the team members as if you want the way that you want to be treated. This is very simple. We have a zero tolerance rule and we're just not okay with it under any circumstances. You should be treating people fairly. And this also goes with sexual harassment, which is inappropriate. You're at work, you need to keep it appropriate. So it's important that people really do understand the ramifications of this. Report any bullying or sexual harassment immediately, and we will do an investigation. We will handle it. We also do have a whistleblower policy. So if you report something, we will ensure that it does not have any negative effects on you, as that is, again, against our policy. Annual training, you are responsible for 24 hours of annual training. Typically, I will send reminders in regards to that. Your first year, typically you're fine. Hopefully you're not getting trained in December, then you're kind of out of luck and you'll have to start over. Our training year is January to December, so that's pretty easy to remember. If you are taking training that pertains to your job and it's not through us, then what you would do is make sure that you give HR a copy of it, which would be me, and then we would make sure we would log it for you. You are responsible for getting me that information though. So if it's not written down and you didn't get it to me, then it didn't exist. So I think that's important for people to understand that I can't, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what trainings you may have taken. Any agency trainings that pertain to this 24 hours, and if we're providing the training. So for example, if I have a trainer coming in and you come to do training, you would get paid for that day. If I assign online trainings for you to get completed, you also will get paid during that time. Smoking policy. You must smoke 20 feet away from any house or any bold building. Don't smoke while you should be meeting the needs of somebody you support. We kind of talked about that. Don't smoke if the person has house guests. That's just rude. Be responsible and clean about your smoking. At this time, we're pretty loose about it because we haven't had any problems. If people take advantage of it, then we would have to change what our rules are about it. Restrictive interventions, use of restraints. We do not practice restraints here. We don't typically take people that need restraints. If for some reason there is a situation that escalates, what we do is we ask you to get the people out of the situation, make sure that the other people in the house and yourself are safe, and then call 911. We do train staff on safe physical management, like self-protection. For example, I have long hair. We have a person that we support that is a hair puller. In this training, they go over different ways to get out of that and to release somebody's hands from pulling your hair. So that's always a good thing to know. And it also teaches you things like not backing yourself into a corner, things like that. As difficult as it seems, your main goal is to ensure that the other people that you're supporting and yourself are safe. So that's your main concern. Med administration, you'll be getting a link today for modified medication that's on the What You Need to Know. We do ask that you get that done within your first 2 weeks and then send me over the certificate, and then we'll make sure that you get trained. Then after that, Michelle will do a one-on-one observation. We'll do several one-on-one observations with you to ensure that you're able to give medications. Then you'll be able to give meds. And then after that, you'll have to take the full med class. So what will happen is I'll send your information to Angie, and then Angie will sign you up, and then you'll take several hours of training online. You can do this at home. You can do this at the agency. We have computers available. You can also do this while you're on shift when the people that you support are taking after they've gone to bed or something like that. So you will eventually have to take that within the first year of being med trained. And then there's a test and a practical class at the office. And this concludes the training. There'll be several other slides that are going to be sent to you, or videos that are going to be sent to you in regards to some other information, the timesheets, notes, and our attendance policy.